One of my earliest childhood memories is sitting in this boat with my family, drifting over crystal clear blue waters above a thriving coral reef. We were halfway between Saipan and Manyagaha, a small island inside Saipan's barrier reef. We were joined by a young local named Lino Olapai. Lino had just speared a couple of reef fish. He brought them into the boat, quickly skinned them with his teeth, reached over and grabbed some tinfoil with soy sauce and rice in it. The freshest imaginable sashimi. My dad had taken a job teaching high school at the local high school on Saipan. He taught the Chamorro kids, and their families took us in. The Camachos in particular embraced us, and we spent a ton of time with them. The Chamorros are the indigenous people of Saipan and nearby islands where they've lived for over 100 generations. During that time, they developed a deep indigenous wisdom about the ocean and marine life. They're the descendants of ocean navigators, people so in touch with the ocean, wind, waves, and stars that they can traverse hundreds of miles of open ocean without modern navigational tools. We see this deep connection with nature with indigenous communities all over the world. So it's no wonder that 80% of the world's biodiversity is under indigenous management, despite being only 5% of the population and overseeing 20% of the earth. In other words, the only people on earth who have successfully managed their environments are indigenous peoples. We have a lot to learn from them. It was on Saipan that I fell in love with the ocean. After Saipan, we moved here to Laguna Beach, one of the most beautiful coastlines on the planet. My love for the ocean grew deeper as my ocean skills advanced. In the 1980s, as a teenager, I became an ocean lifeguard. My friends and I began riding waves, diving, spearfishing, snorkeling. But no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't find fish that were big enough to legally spear or catch. The kelp beds were sparse, the seafloor covered with purple urchins. We had heard stories of the ocean's abundance, times when a lifeguard party could be supplied with fish with an afternoon's dive and abalone found on the local reefs 3 deep. We asked the older lifeguards what happened, and they told us it's fished out. You should have been here yesterday. It's over. And they were right. The system was out of balance. Absent large predators, the urchin population had exploded, and it was devouring the kelp, creating something known as an urchin barren. I was heartbroken. I felt a deep sense of loss. I felt like I had missed out. It wasn't clear that anything could be done about this. I know now that overfishing and mismanagement are actually connected to how we treated the indigenous people here in California. In nearly erasing their cultures, we lost connection with their indigenous wisdom about sustainable management. Shame on us. Maybe because of my belief in science that I got from my father or my experiences on Saipan, but I wasn't willing to give up and accept this depleted world. I knew one place to go to find answers was science. So I dedicated my academic career to studying natural science. In grad school, I learned about solutions to overfishing and climate change and water pollution, and it felt great to know that there were solutions. But these still seemed abstract and not connected to the people and place that I knew needed help. It wasn't until I started working at the Surfrider Foundation that I realized that connecting people and place to these solutions is really the only real solution. As I experienced in Laguna Beach, people can have an incredible passion about their coast, but not know what solutions exist. And too often, scientists and decision makers know what the solutions are, but have no idea how to connect them to people and place. Meanwhile, it turns out that the local level is the best place to take action. Why? Because it's the places we know and understand. We can see change when it happens, good or bad. We know the people, the history, and the norms. We know the decision makers. They probably live in our hometown. And probably most importantly, it's a scale that we all understand. It's the human scale. Plus, you can get a lot done at the local level. If you show up at a city council meeting with 10 or 15 people, you're a force to be reckoned with. You can ban single-use plastics. You can stop an inappropriate project, or you can ensure that your community is prepared for coming issues like climate change. Look, I'm not going to tell you that city council meetings are fun, because they are not. But if you show up with your friends, if you have your talking points ready, if you know how many votes you need to win, and then you win, they can be fun. Winning is fun, and doing it with your friends is even better. So we know that the local level is an effective way to create change, but what about these big problems, like climate change and plastic pollution that are global in nature? They require massive solutions. Well, it turns out that the grassroots model and solutions at the local level can scale to the state, federal, and even global level. In fact, it's what's caused most of the important social change in America. From interracial marriage to women's right to vote to recreational marijuana, all of these issues started at the local level and grew to the state level, and after state, they eventually got to the federal level. It turns out that if you can pass 25 to 35 state laws, an issue will tip. I'll give you another more recent example with Surfrider's efforts to eliminate single-use plastics. It all started in 2007 when the city of San Francisco banned single-use plastic bags, the first bag ban in America, a local win. Bag bans proliferated in cities all over California and the nation. Then in 2014, California passed the first statewide bag ban. Industry tried to overturn that, and California voters overwhelmingly supported it. Today, a decade later, there's hundreds and hundreds of laws, and 42 state laws have been passed banning all kinds of single-use plastics. We have more work to do, but there's incredible momentum. Other organizations are using this model as well. Moms Demand Action is fighting for gun safety and Rise Now for women's rights. In the last decade, these two organizations have passed dozens and dozens of laws to advance their causes. So, how does this model work? We win locally. Local wins start to add up. We learn and share as we go. The pace picks up and we gain momentum. To scale, we need communities and people connected and passionate about their issues in their place. And we continue until we build higher and higher levels of scale. So despite the examples that I've shared with you, I hear two common criticisms about this model. It's too small and it's too slow. It reminds me of a military mantra: slow is smooth and smooth is fast. This principle highlights that speed and efficiency come from iterative, deliberate actions. And I think the same is true for advocacy. Efforts to shortcut the system either fail or are undone when political winds shift. On the flip side, this model has many, many advantages. It gives agency to everyone. No action is too small. It happens at a scale that we all understand, the human scale. It's where stuff happens, both politically and on the ground. Ground-up movements build strength, commitment, and resilience. People will not quit until the job is done. And you can take on an issue in multiple levels of government, in multiple places, focused on the places where results are most likely. We need this effective model because we're in an emergency for our ocean and our planet. I'll just give you a couple examples. Climate change is rapidly increasing with dire consequences. Plastic pollution continues to soar, and of late, sea surface temperatures are accelerating at an alarming rate. This is an all-hands-on-deck moment. We need everybody, including you. The model that I described, local action, connected to people and place, replicated and scaled, is the best way to take on ocean conservation issues and other issues as well. And I don't just think it'll work, I know it will. When I left you in Laguna Beach, things were bleak. But about 10 years ago, local people who understand solutions took action. They established the no-take marine reserve here in Laguna Beach. Over that decade, the community stewarded the local reefs, replanted kelp, and enforced the laws. Today, the marine life here has come roaring back. It's not uncommon to see giant schools of sheep's head, caves full of lobsters. They're keeping the urchins in check, and the kelp beds are thriving. This didn't just happen here in Laguna Beach. It happened in 120 other sites up and down the California coast, protecting 16% of state waters. Local action, scaled statewide, has resulted in incredible health of California's coastal waters. My kids grew up in a healthier ocean than I did. So, if you love the ocean, if you love the coasts, and you love your coastal communities, get active. Show up, but don't show up alone. Build or join a community of people who are as passionate as you are about your issues, and find organizations that are networked to bring your solution to scale. With grassroots organizing, anything is possible. Don't wait. Our time is now. Thank you.